Hello, online friends. Okay, so meter signatures, also known as time signatures, the two terms are pretty interchangeable. Tell us about how rhythm is organized in a piece, right? It tells us how much time we have in each measure. The meter signature, which appears at the beginning of a piece of music, or whenever the meter signature changes, you'll get a new one, tells us how many of what kind of note there is space for in each measure of that piece. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that configuration of notes is what's going to happen, right? For instance, in your sight singing, 3/4, that means there's space for 3 quarter notes in each measure. But is there 3 quarter notes in every single measure? No. There's different configurations of notes that still add up to the same amount of time, right? So this is just telling us how much time we have in each measure. 3/4, like I just said, means 3 quarter notes, or the equivalent time will fit in each measure. 4/2 means that 4 half notes will fit in each measure. I've provided you a set of shortcuts so that if you're wondering what kind of note does the bottom number represent, this is the answer. Whatever over 4 means whatever quarter notes. Whatever over 8 means whatever eighth notes. Whatever over 2 means whatever half notes. Whatever over 1 means whatever over whole notes. When we sight read, you guys are used to doing this to keep track of time, right? Where every time your hand hits your thigh, it represents a beat, right? And then when your hand is out here, it represents the second half of the beat. So if you were to sing on each one of these motions, you'd be singing a bunch of eighth notes, right? What we're doing there is we're dividing each beat in half, yeah? Dividing them into 2. When the beat can be easily divided into 2 parts, or 4 parts, or on and on and on, we refer to those as simple meters. What a time for my marker to decide to yeet itself out. Simple meters are meters that have 2 of whatever, 3 of whatever, or 4 of whatever. If the top number is 2, 3, or 4, it is a simple meter, meaning that this style of subdivision will work. So simple meters are prevailingly what you have sight read in up to now. It's also, I think for all 3 of your pieces, they're all in simple meters. Yep, all 3 of your pieces for right now are in simple meters. Simple meters are not the only meters that exist, right? Because sometimes the beat doesn't divide into 2 parts. Have any of you ever heard the song Cooler Than Me by Mike Posner? There's a section of the song that has a little instrumental, you can hear a little synthesizer, and it's going. Do you hear how there's 3 little pieces in each of those beats rather than 2? When the beat gets split into 3 little pieces rather than 2, we call that compound. Now, if compound meter means that you can divide the beat into 3, the top number probably needs to be a multiple of 3. Yeah? So, compound meters have a multiple of 3 as the top number, except for 3 itself. So 6 over whatever, 9 over whatever, 12 over whatever. If it's divisible by 3, except for 3 itself, it's compound, and the beat is being divided into 3 little pieces rather than 2. Now, there is a third category of meter that only you guys are learning about today, and that is asymmetrical. So it's going to be a 5 over whatever, a 7 over whatever, that kind of stuff, an 11 over whatever. So, depending on when you're watching this video and whether you are a brick and mortar or a virtual student, at some point you're going to get some kind of assignment where I'm going to ask you about meter signatures and How many of what does the meter signature represent? And then whether or not that meter is simple, compound, or asymmetrical. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Let's say I give you 3, 2. So you'll remember from the lesson I just taught that this top number gives us a couple of pieces of information. The top number tells us how many and whether it's simple, compound, or asymmetrical. The bottom number tells us what kind of note. So if you remember from my shortcuts at the beginning of the video, this bottom number being a 2 tells me that the half note is the one being emphasized. You can also see that in the example directly above it. So there's going to be 3 half notes per measure in this meter. And because 3 is the top number, that means it's a simple meter. For another example, if I give you 9/8. Again, the top number tells us how many, the bottom number tells us what kind of note, and then we come back to the top number for simple, compound, or asymmetrical. So there's going to be 9 of something. This bottom number tells me that it's 9/8 notes. So there are 9/8 notes per measure for this meter. And because 9 is a multiple of 3, but not 3 itself, that tells me that this is. Now go forth and analyze, my children.